وعدم التشبث بمعادلات خشبية جامدة.
الأفق ليس مسدودا.
Good afternoon on this Friday, March 7th. I'm Yumna Naufal, and these are today's headlines. Family and supporters block roads to pressure authorities to free the kidnapping of the son of a businessman, Ibrahim Sa'ar, in the eastern city of Zahle. Iraqi security forces detain an airport official in connection with the decision to turn back a flight from Beirut after the son of the Iraqi transport minister, Hadi al-Amiri, missed the plane. And Russia and the U.S. still stuck in a stalemate on Ukraine, but relations between the two countries should not be sacrificed because of their differences, according to Vladimir Putin. Angered by the kidnapping of a 9-year-old, Michel Sa'ad in Zahle, friends and relatives have blocked roads to pressure authorities to help free the child. Supporters block off intersections with burning tires shortly after Michel, the son of a wealthy businessman, Ibrahim Sa'ar, was snatched by masked gunmen as he headed to school in a chauffeur-driven car. Michel was kidnapped around 7 a.m. this morning while on his way to Sainte Famille School in Zahle. The assailants in a Grand Cherokee and Honda intercepted Sa'ar's car, pulled the driver out and beat him, while others snatched the boy and sped off in the Cherokee to an unknown destination. The Honda used in the kidnapping was left behind at the abduction scene. The vehicle was stolen from the Beirut district of Sin el-Fil earlier this week. Interior Minister Nuhad Mashnou informed the family that he has told the security forces to take all necessary measures to release Michel. A dispute erupted between the head of the Army intelligence in the Bekaa Valley and the residents of a town over the arrest of a suspect. News sources denied there was a shooting between his convoy and the residents of the town of Al-Labwe. It did not give further details on the arrested suspect, but media reports say there was a shooting between the convoy and Hezbollah members on the Al-Labwe road. In other local news, Iraqi security forces have detained an airport official in connection with the decision to turn back a flight from Beirut after the son of the Iraqi transport minister, Hadi al-Amiri, missed the plane. A special security force from the Office of the Armed Forces Commander arrested Baghdad Airport Assistant Manager Samir Kibbe during a raid on his office late on Thursday night. Iraqi Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki states he would punish those responsible for this fiasco. Meanwhile, 21 of the 71 passengers whose flight was cancelled because of the Iraqi decision flew to Baghdad late on Thursday night. Authorities at Rafiq Hariri International Airport state on Iraqi Airways, plane carrying 59 passengers arrived in Beirut and flew back to Baghdad with 21 passengers. MP Strida Jaja is urging lawmakers to endorse a draft law to protect women from domestic violence a day ahead of International Women's Day. The Lebanese Forces MP states, as a woman in the Lebanese parliament, I regret the setback the country is witnessing at the level of women's rights. Meanwhile, Shia scholar Sayyid Ali Fadlallah on Thursday called for the creation of a specialized police unit to deal with domestic violence, adding that special courts are needed to deal with marital problems. Fadlallah also voiced support for any law protecting women from violence as long as it preserves a balance between protection of women and family life. Lebanon has recently witnessed several high-profile cases of husbands allegedly beating their wives to death, provoking calls for laws that protect women from domestic violence. Foreign Minister Gibran Bassil is reportedly changing Lebanon's clause of the final statement of the Arab foreign ministers meeting that will be held this Sunday amid lack of consensus among the rival parties on the policy statement of Prime Minister Tamam Salam's cabinet. Al-Akhbar newspaper quoted a source in Cairo as saying that the version sent by Bassil was very different from that of his predecessor, ex-foreign minister Adnan Mansour, who according to An-Nahar has held on to the army-people resistance equation. Bassil's statement refers to the right of Lebanon and the Lebanese to confront occupation, the source said, without giving further details. But the Daily quoted Bassil as saying that the statement gives Lebanon and the Lebanese the right in resisting occupation. The controversy on the word resistance is already delaying the approval of the policy statement. Syrian warplanes pound an area near the rebel-held town of Yabrud near the Lebanese border, a day after at least 17 jihadists were killed in fighting. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said the Islamist fighters were killed during an offensive by loyal forces backed by Hezbollah aimed at seizing hills surrounding Yabrud, which is north of Damascus. Regime aircraft launched 6 raids on the Al-Aqaba region, according to the Britain-based watchdog. The Yabroud offensive by Syrian ground forces, bolstered by fighters from Lebanon's Shia Hezbollah movement, an ally of President Bashar al-Assad, which is aimed at severing a key rebel supply line linked to the town of Arsail in Lebanon's Bekaa Valley. Hezbollah says that car bombs used to attack the movement inside Lebanon originated in the Yabroud area and were driven to their targets via Arsail, a Sunni town where support for the Syrian uprising runs high. Coming up next, Turkey's Prime Minister gives a warning that his government could ban social media networks. Stay with us. Welcome back. Russia and the United States are still stuck in a stalemate on Ukraine, but relations between the two countries should not be sacrificed because of their differences, Vladimir Putin says after a phone call with U.S. President Barack Obama. President Putin's remarks were carried in a Kremlin statement issued following the Thursday night telephone call with Obama. During the one-hour call, the U.S. leader urged his Russian counterpart to engage with diplomatic efforts to defuse a crisis that began with anti-government protests in November and this week escalated with a threat of secession in the strategically important peninsula of Crimea after armed men seized government buildings and military installations. On Thursday, Crimea's parliament voted unanimously in favor of joining the Russian Federation. A referendum asking whether the peninsula should retain ties with Kiev or join the Federation is due to take place on March 16th. As tensions escalate in Crimea, the UN Security Council held a special closed-door meeting on the Ukraine. Earlier in the day, Crimea's parliament had voted to join Russia, and its Moscow-backed government set a referendum on the decision in 10 days' time in a dramatic escalation of the crisis over the Ukrainian Black Sea Peninsula. With Russia holding a veto power as a permanent member of the Council, the UN's body charged with maintaining peace and security remains unable to act and waiting for an outside impetus.
I think it's unlikely that there will be agreement on a Security Council product over the next few days. As you've heard from others, there are contacts going on, intensive diplomatic contacts at the highest level, at a bilateral and in various fora around Europe. Those contacts will continue. Maybe some agreement will be reached which will help to de-escalate this crisis, and then the Security Council can perhaps produce some product. But we do not rule out presenting a resolution in the Security Council at any time, and we are watching developments extremely closely, and we would expect the Security Council to meet again over the next few days, depending on what happens on the ground.
Just received a very disturbing briefing from Deputy Secretary General Jan Eliasson on the situation in Ukraine and the unacceptable treatment of Special Envoy Seri in Crimea. We condemn the attack on Envoy Seri. And we have made clear over the past, as we have made clear over the past few days, getting monitors into Crimea is a critical task and one the Russians should welcome, given their stated concern for ethnic Russians in Ukraine. Thank you for that. First, let me say that I think the word deadlock suggests a kind of even 8-7 deadlock among council members, and that's not at all the nature of the discussions, as I think you heard in the public sessions as well, where Russia finds itself extremely isolated. Every council member has stressed over the course of the last few days the importance of the UN Charter, the importance of territorial integrity, the importance of sovereignty, etc., and raised great concerns about the potential for escalation. So I think there is utility in coming together in order to highlight, particularly in these public meetings, the extent of Russia's isolation as it takes the moves that it has taken.
Turkey's Prime Minister has given warning that his government could ban social media networks, YouTube and Facebook, after a number of online leaks added momentum to a growing corruption scandal. Recep Tayyip Erdogan has already tightened his government's grip over the internet, generating criticism at home and abroad about rights in his country. His ruling Justice and Development Party, or AK Party, has come under mounting pressure since last week when audio recordings were leaked in which Erdogan and his son allegedly discuss how to hide vast sums of money. A series of other online leaks showed Erdogan meddling in trade deals and court cases. He has accused loyalists of Fethullah Gulen, an influential Muslim leader based in the U.S., of using his influence in the judiciary and police to engineer a high-level corruption investigation targeting the government since mid-December. An Iranian negotiator states that expert-level nuclear talks with world powers this week have been useful as the two sides pursue a final accord on Tehran's controversial nuclear program. Experts from Iran and the Western nations have been holding closed-door technical talks in Vienna since Wednesday. The head of Iranian delegation of experts, Hamid Badinjad, states that the talks should wrap up today and would focus on advanced centrifuges and the unfinished Arak heavy water reactor. Western nations and Israel have long suspected Iran is covertly pursuing a nuclear weapons capability alongside its civilian program, charges denied by Tehran. A landmark interim deal reached last year requires that Iran freezes its nuclear activities for 6 months in exchange for some sanctions relief, while the two sides try to reach a comprehensive agreement. Negotiators hope to reach a compromise on July the 20th, when the interim agreement is due to expire. And now for news around the world in brief. Samantha Taylor, a former girlfriend of Oscar Pistorius, has testified at the double amputee runner's murder trial that their relationship ended when he cheated on her with Riva Stinkov, the woman he fatally shot last year. Taylor also testified that Pistorius carried a gun with him at all times when they were dating, and on one occasion he fired it out of a car's sunroof soon after a policeman stopped the car they were in for speeding. Defense lawyer Barry Roux said he would produce emails between Taylor and Pistorius to show the cheating allegation was untrue. Pistorius says he killed Stinkov in his home by mistake, thinking she was an intruder. Britain's Prince Harry stated that he wants to introduce the sporting championships for injured servicemen and women in the UK to show support for the sacrifices they've made. Harry added that he hopes the event will inspire many more who have suffered with life-changing injuries, either by taking part in the games or simply by watching it at home. More than 300 wounded, injured, and sick servicemen and women from 13 nations will compete in 8 adaptive sports in London from September 10th to the 14th. Adam Lambert, the hopeful of American Idol, has never paid attention to the haters, and he won't start now as the lead singer for the rock band Queen on their upcoming summer tour. Lambert first performed with Queen in 2009 when he was a contestant on American Idol, where he placed second. The band and Lambert have since performed together, including last year's iHeartRadio Music Festival in Las Vegas and a European tour in 2012. They sang such hits as We Are the Champions and We Will Rock You. Still, Lambert has to stand in the shadow of the singer many regard as one of the greatest to front a rock band. Original members Brian May and Roger Taylor flanked Lambert for the news conference, and the interviews that followed defended their choice as Mercury's successor. On that note, our bulletin ends for today. Now for a reminder of our top stories. Family and supporters block roads to pressure authorities to free the kidnapping of the son of businessman Ibrahim Sa'ir in the eastern city of Zahle. Iraqi security forces detained an airport official in connection with a decision to turn back a flight from Beirut after the son of the Iraqi transport minister Hadi al-Amiri missed the plane. And Russia and the U.S. are still stuck in a stalemate on Ukraine, but relations between the two countries should not be sacrificed because of their differences, Vladimir Putin states after a phone call with Barack Obama. Those are your Friday headlines live on Future Television. And make sure to tune in tomorrow to International Women's Day. We're hosting May Shidia, and we'll be back for all the latest. Have a good one.
إلى عدم التشبث بمعادلات خشبية جامدة.
الأفق ليس مسدودا.